Hey kids, sit up and pay attention. It's time for Retrorific. Okay.
Oh, yeah, hi.
Oh hi! We didn't see you come in there.
How's it going? How's the family? Who are you?
How's
and
the
what do you want with me? These are all things that you'll hear from us if you ever break into our house.
On that note, we've just finished watching Akira. Here's the proof. There's empty pizza boxes.
I'm very sleepy.
James is very sleepy because he's had a long day apparently. So let's
I had
get
a long day and that was a long film.
Let's get this over with quickly, shall we? What did you think of the film, James?
We were pussies about it and we watched the dub version.
Yeah.
That was a mistake.
Yeah.
We missed out on emotions in a lot of the characters because you can tell that they were animated to care about something and the voices were just kind of reading along. It's kind of like Shakespeare sounds a bit shit if it's read by a drunk Northerner. You just can't make it sound good.
Good points, I suppose. Also, some of the dialogue seems a little bit weird because obviously they're trying to time the dialogue to the mouth movements that are already there. So they end up saying weird things. Like, my favourite example of just a weird thing to say was right at the beginning when there's the guy helping the blue child escape from the laboratory. And instead of saying, run, he says, escape! It's like, what? Yeah, so the dubbing, not great.
Animation.
Animation was fantastic.
Oh,
you can't argue with that
beautiful.
kind of animation.
Just visually stunning, imaginative, fucked up. Very many times.
Seriously disturbing in a few places.
Yeah. Really hits you. Yeah, there's a few clinky kind of like. I'm going by age on this one, but there's a few scenes that do look a bit dated. Maybe anything where they're trying to make electronic lights and flashes, it's just kind of, you just kind of think, yeah, not working too well there.
But then again, it was the 80s.
It was the 80s and a lot of things worked very well. Vibe.
I definitely got the vibe. Very...
Vibe. One word leaped out at me the whole way through this.
Left.
Screw you. Dystopian.
Dystopian, yeah.
Because, but in a really weird way, it's not in your normal kind of like science fiction, like, this is a dark, weary place. It's kind of like, you can imagine that there are people who go about their lives perfectly normally. It reminds me a lot of some of the weirder 70s, 80s Doctor Who kind of setups.
Yeah.
In terms of colour palette, in terms of just genuine vibe.
Okay. I have a few problems with this film. I enjoyed watching it, don't get me wrong, because I get the feeling that if I shit on Akira now, I will get lynched.
We will get hurt.
Yeah. No, I enjoyed the film. It was beautiful and it was very impressive and all that. I have a few little gripes with it. My first big gripe, and this is just a general thing, I don't like films that combine science fiction with fantasy in this way. You know, like, the idea of the kind of mystical side of fantasy, all the magic and craziness and telekinesis and that sort of stuff, mixed with the very kind of hardcore science fiction-y futuristic thing.
That rules you out of a hell of a lot of anime.
Exactly, and that's probably why I don't get on very well with anime, because I just don't like that combination of the two. That doesn't sit well with me.
Yeah.
That's just a personal taste thing, though. I felt that this film was just overloaded with plot. They could have taken a 20-minute segment of this film and happily made it into a feature film by itself.
I did feel it needed to be more of a mini-series than a film a couple of times.
Exactly. There's definitely... It's very episodic.
Yeah.
It's like, now this happens, and then that happens, and then that happens, and then that happens, and there's no one sort of event that starts it off, and there's no one event that finishes it. It's just kind of a series of things happening.
I think the biggest problem with it is it's just it's kind of overly ambitious for what it wants to be. It wants to be the great epic story, but it wants to be a deeply personal, characterised story.
Yeah, and you can't do both at once.
There are ways of doing both at once. It's just really fucking difficult. I have had a long day, but I've felt myself nodding off a couple of times, and a film like this shouldn't invite me to do that.
Yeah, no, I have to say I agree with you. I felt towards the end, I just felt battle weary.
Yeah.
You know, like in the end of, if you imagine the end of Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, you know, once you've been sitting there watching the same battle go on for 25 minutes, you just get a bit sick of it. Yeah. And in this film, the whole second half just seems to be one long battle for the city.
Yeah.
And it just, you know, there's always stuff happening, there's always interesting plot developments happening within that, but it just gets a bit kind of... It gets too much after a while.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I could get on with, which I know you struggled with, which made me not so challenged with it, I think, is... this makes me sound like an idiot now. Is my ability to jump facts. You're very much a factual person. I'm not. I can make that suspension of disbelief kind of thing for a second. I noticed a couple of times you were like, ah. Yeah,
there were a few big what the fuck moments in this film. I'll say one thing for Akira. It certainly is memorable. I don't think I'm going to forget what I just saw.
No, there's some...
There are some images in there that have definitely burned their way into my skull.
What, like giant teddy bears melting?
Giant melting teddy bears. Didn't its finger turn into a...
Yeah, no, that happened.
Yeah, that happened. Okay.
That happened.
So
I'm not going to sleep easily tonight.
Yeah.
One of the things I did like is how you're actually given all the answers right at the beginning. And then the questions actually become the questions themselves. That's one thing I really did like about this film, which is something that I think is just more of a different approach to storytelling to what you see in a lot of conventional movies. Just like, here's everything. These are these people living their situations in their situations. They're not being coy about any facts or anything like this. They are actually giving you the entire story upside front. You just don't know enough of the story to actually make sense of it yet.
I have to say, you've got to love anime, because where other than an anime film would you see a guy on a motorcycle with a bazooka laser cannon firing at a guy who can fly, destroying the city with telekinesis, and a bionic arm that's malfunctioning and pulsating and doing all kinds of weird shit? Where else but an anime film would you see that?
And the bionic arm is made from a bit from the space station.
Should we wrap this up?
What the fuck happened?
Alright, final thoughts on the film, James. What do you think?
I don't know.
Right, I'll give my final thoughts. I thought this was a very interesting and enjoyable film. Beautifully animated. Way too much plot. And just... No, way too much plot stuffed into a film running time. You know, like you said, it would have worked better as a miniseries, and just a little bit too much for me.
I haven't seen Akira yet. I have seen an American dubbed version of, from what I hear, is a great anime. I think this is the conclusion that I'm personally going to make overall, is it's great visual poetry, but I'm not sure what the story is like yet, so I can't even make that judgment. But the visual poetry is staggering, is stunning, really needs to be appreciated more and taken on board more by our Western cinema. Serious lessons to learn. Luckily not about plot and pacing, because I think we've got those ones covered in comparison. But definitely about visuals and how much you can gain. Even in animation, you felt for the characters. There was general emoting moments, which, the better animation than Keanu Reeves has in a facial expression. You're getting bored, aren't you?
You're taking quite a while.
I'm imagining.
You are a little bit. So, in conclusion, I've never really been a huge fan of anime. This film has not particularly changed my opinion. I'm not going to suddenly start watching anime because of this film, but I did enjoy it, and I think it was worthwhile watching, and I certainly would recommend that everyone else watches it, because it's just one of those things that you have to see, really. Bye bye, everyone. On the 25th of this month, we will be watching Alien.
Wolverine? No, Wolverine.
No, not Wolverine.
Oh.
Alien.
Oh! Yay!